Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever sat down, really sat down to work on something important, a big presentation, let's say, and you find yourself almost without thinking opening like 7 completely different browser tabs.
Oh, absolutely.
You know that struggle to focus it's real
Mhm.
and it's fierce.
And that's only half of it.
Well,
What about that constant little pull, the craving for sugar, or to check your phone again?
yeah, that battle against compulsion, it's exhausting. We tend to think of it as, a failure of willpower.
Right, but today we're going to challenge that.
We are.
Our mission for this deep dive is to get to the very roots of this restlessness. We're pulling together some really fascinating material that connects ancient survival needs with modern neuroscience.
We've got computational models, neurobiology of dopamine, and even brain imaging of deep meditative states.
And it all centers on one core question. This monkey mind, as people call it, this constant jumping around.
Is it a bug or is it a feature?
Exactly. Is it an error in our design, or is it an inherited and actually highly effective survival tool that's just completely maladapted to the world we live in now?
The evidence seems to point pretty strongly to the second one.
It really does. We're running on this ancient neural hardware, perfectly designed for a world of scarcity, for the savannah.
Where you never knew where your next meal was coming from.
Precisely. And now we live in a world of just overwhelming abundance, nonstop everything. And that mismatch, arguably, is the source of so many of our modern struggles.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's get into that original survival engine.
Yeah.
It all starts with something computational neuroscientists call the explore-exploit trade-off.
Right. And this is the fundamental dilemma that really every living thing has to solve.
Okay.
Do you exploit a resource you already know, a reliable patch of berries, let's say, which gives you a sure short-term gain? Or do you explore? Do you look for something new, an unfamiliar option that's uncertain but might have a much bigger payoff in the long run?
That's a decision we make constantly, even if we don't label it that way.
Dozens of times a day.
Like, should I go to my usual deli for that sandwich I know is pretty good?
Yeah.
That's exploitation.
Yeah.
Or do I take a chance on that new restaurant that just opened up? That's exploration.
That's it, exactly. And to survive, you need a good balance. Lean too hard on exploitation, and you become rigid. You form habits that might fail you if the world changes.
And if you explore too much...
You're a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
You're inefficient, always switching, never really getting the full value from anything. The humans who mastered that balance, they're our ancestors.
And what's so incredible is that this isn't just a metaphor. Researchers can actually measure this balance.
They can. They use tools like the unarmed bandit test.
Which sounds like a casino game.
Well, think of it like a slot machine with, say, 4 or 5 different levers or arms. Each one pays out a reward, but the value of those rewards is always changing, slowly and unpredictably.
So you have to keep testing them all, exploring, to figure out which one is best right now.
Exactly. You have to balance that exploration with pulling the lever you think is the best one exploitation.
So how do you use that to find out if someone's decision-making is, rigid or unhealthy?
You fit their choices, trial by trial, into these mathematical reinforcement learning models. And that gives you parameters that describe their unique style.
Like what?
2 big ones are softmax gain, some call it temperature, and the learning rate.
Okay, softmax gain.
A high softmax gain means you are really biased toward the familiar option. You'll stick with what you know, even if a tiny bit of evidence suggests something else might be better. That's exploitation rigidity.
And the learning rate is just how fast you update your beliefs.
That's right. And this is where it becomes really relevant for clinical psychology.
Right, because these models are starting to show that extreme biases can be a sign of certain psychiatric disorders.
Yes. Computational psychiatry is using these foraging tasks to quantify this rigidity. In studies on, say, substance use disorders, you often see that people make significantly fewer exploratory choices.
They just stick with the known reward.
They stick with what they know. They have that high softmax gain, and they often can't update their learning when the situation changes.
Wow. So the survival instinct becomes a kind of pathological trap. You get stuck seeking the known thing, even if that known thing is hurting you.
You've got it.
But what's the chemical? What's the driver behind that relentless cycle? And that, of course, brings us to dopamine.
Dopamine. Probably the most misunderstood neurotransmitter out there.
Everyone thinks it's the pleasure molecule.
And while it's definitely involved in pleasure, that's not its main job. Its main job is to signal a prediction error?
A surprise.
A surprise. A big burst of dopamine happens when you get an unexpected reward. It flags the difference between what you got and what you thought you were going to get.
So if you know you're getting your morning coffee, there's basically no dopamine response.
Almost none. The savannah brain loved surprise.
Mhm.
Dopamine is the brain's way of shouting, hey, pay attention, that was good and you didn't see it coming, do it again.
And that tips the brain's internal scale, the hedonic balance toward pleasure.
Sharply. But here's the crucial part. There's a price for that pleasure. It's something called the opponent process theory.
Okay, what happens right after that dopamine spike?
Your brain has this involuntary, self-regulating reflex. It immediately pushes back with an equal and opposite counterreaction to get the scale back to level.
But it overshoots.
It overshoots. It tips the scale an equal amount past the middle into the side of pain or discomfort. And that brief moment of pain, that is the biological root of craving.
So that feeling of emptiness or anxiety you get right after you stop scrolling or finish binging a show.
Mm-hmm.
That's not you being weak. That's your brain's opponent process kicking in. You're not reaching for the next hit because the last one was so great.
Yeah.
You're reaching for it to escape the pain of the biological hangover.
Precisely. And you can see how this becomes disastrous in our world of modern abundance. On the savannah, a big dopamine spike was rare. Now, we are just bathing our brains in it constantly.
Yeah. Processed foods, social media notifications, endless content.
And when you do that over and over, the system adapts. Neuroadaptation. Two things happen. First, the initial pleasure spike gets weaker and shorter.
That's tolerance.
That's tolerance. And second, that pain after response. It gets stronger and it lasts longer.
So the whole baseline shifts.
The whole hedonic set point of your brain moves over to the side of pain. So now you need that substance, that behavior, just to feel normal again, just to climb out of the hole and get back to zero. It's a trap.
A complete maladaptive learning trap. But, cultures have known for a long time that not all desire is the same. I think it's worth looking at the distinction made in Buddhist psychology here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a critical lens for understanding this. They separate desire into two fundamental types. The first is tancha.
Which is craving.
It is. It's unwholesome desire. It's totally tied up with feeling, with personal gratification, with getting something to satisfy this fixed idea of me or mine.
So tanha is the desire that's driven by that opponent process. It's the seeking of pleasure, or really the seeking of relief from that pain.
Exactly. It's self-centric. I want this because I will feel good. The second type of desire is very different. It's called chanda.
Wholesome desire, or enthusiasm.
Right. And chanda is objective. It's the desire for truth, for goodness, for effective action. It's not generated by getting something, but by wise reflection and intentional cultivation of purpose.
And it leads to action, not seeking.
It leads to energy and effort, not acquisition. It's the zeal for the process itself, kind of independent of what the outcome means for your ego.
That's a really important distinction because you could have craving, Tanda, for something that seems wholesome, right? Like, I want to get fit or I want to write a book.
You can, but if the real reason is for self-aggrandizement, so people will admire me, then it's still Tana. It's tied to the self, so it's doomed to that same opponent process cycle.
Whereas Chanda is the pure energy, the drive you need to keep going when the reward is a long way off.
It's the engine of true, effortful focus.
Okay, so if the explore-exploit system and the dopamine loop are the engine of restlessness, let's look at the brain's control panel, the neural architecture. This brings us to the attentional triad.
Right. Three main networks that control our attention. First up is the dorsal attention network, or the DAN.
This is the good guy.
This is your high control network, yeah. It's like the brain's lighthouse beam. It supports sustained, top-down, goal-directed focus. It's what you're using when you're locked into a spreadsheet.
And then there's the one that interrupts the party.
The ventral attention network, or VAN. This is your bottom-up, stimulus-driven network.
Attentional capture.
Attentional capture, exactly. Your phone pings, you hear a loud noise. The VAN is what hijacks your focus.
And finally, the great nemesis of deep work, the default mode network, the DMN.
The DMN, our internal storyteller. It's all about self-referential thought.
Yeah.
Remembering the past, planning the future, and most of all, mind-wandering.
And what's really key is the relationship between these networks in a healthy brain.
It is. The DAN and the DMN are normally anti-correlated.
Meaning, when one is on, the other is off.
Exactly. When you're lost in thought about yourself, high DMN activity, your task-focused networks shut down, and vice versa. A strong, clean separation between the two is a marker of brain health and good attentional control.
So people who are better at focusing can also disengage from a distraction more quickly.
Their brains show that stronger anti-correlation. Yeah, they can release their attention more effectively.
This sets the stage perfectly. If our minds are constantly being hijacked by craving, by tanna, and by mind wandering from the DMN, how do we train the system for that effortless focus we talked about?
And that's where the research into advanced states like jhana meditation comes in.
Okay, define chana for us.
Jhana refers to these profound states of absorptive concentration. They're marked by incredible stability, a sense of joy or rapture, and a fading of normal conscious experience.
So like the feeling of your body or that inner monologue, it all just fades away.
It fades away, and to get there, you have to skillfully suppress all those hindrances we've been talking about. Restlessness, desire, worry.
But there's a paradox here, isn't there?
Yeah.
You need a ton of effort to get started, but the final entry into that state is a release.
It's a total surrender of effort. Practitioners often describe it as just effortless, like a whoosh.
So how does that work?
There's a model for it called the Attention, Arousal, and Release Spiral, the AAR spiral. It's a positive feedback loop.
Okay, walk us through the steps.
Step 1 is attention to arousal. You focus your attention on one stable thing, like the breath. As you do, the brain's confidence in that perception grows, and this stability creates a really positive feeling called piti, joy or rapture.
Okay, so you get a reward just for focusing. Then step 2, arousal to attention.
That positive feeling is so pleasant and stable, it makes paying attention effortless. It's like a magnet for your focus. It becomes self-sustaining.
And that leads to the final step.
Release. Because it's now effortless, you can make the conscious choice to just let go. You surrender that cognitive control, you drop the inner narrator, and that allows the mind to fall deeper into absorption.
So you're basically hacking your own brain's feedback loop to generate effortless focus. Does this training physically change those networks we just talked about? Does it shut down the DMN?
Oh, absolutely. The neuroimaging evidence is compelling.
Real?
Yeah. In one study, experienced meditators were doing a difficult cognitive task, and they showed significantly greater suppression of the DMN compared to non-meditators.
So it's not just that concentrating turns off the DMN, which happens for everyone. It's that they could turn it off more.
Much more. The training seems to give them a neuroplastic skill, the ability to turn down the volume on that self-referential mind-wandering network more effectively.
Wow.
And it gets even more specific. In advanced meditators, dynamic fMRI found a brain state that was defined by its extreme anti-correlation with the DMN. And that state became much more prominent as they went deeper into absorption. It shows that separating the self-obsessed mind from the focused mind isn't just a side effect of concentration, it is the neural signature of it.
This has been an incredible journey. We've traced our modern struggle with focus all the way back to that ancient foraging dilemma, the explore-exploit trade-off, through the chemical trap of dopamine and that opponent process, and finally to the attentional architecture that can either trap us in mind-wandering or set us free.
And the bottom line seems to be that we are driven by this ancient survival impulse, this compulsive seeking.
Right.
And something like computational psychiatry gives us this powerful, neutral way to see it. It's not a moral failing, it's a mechanism that in a world of abundance gets stuck in exploit mode.
But the path of advanced practice, this idea of effortless focus, shows a way out. It seems to be about retraining the brain to prefer chanda.
Purposeful, objective energy.
Over tacha, that craving for self-gratification.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to take away.
Let's hear it.
We've seen that deep absorption physically quiets the DMN, the network of the self. And we know it's supported by chanda, wholesome zeal, not tan, selfish craving. So if the root problem of our distraction and addiction is this primal loop of craving that's tied to the self, does this kind of deep attention training offer a literal biological pathway by strengthening DMN suppression, by building up that AAR spiral to intentionally convert that primal survival-based craving into the purposeful objective energy of wholesome enthusiasm?
Maybe the journey to focus isn't about finding more willpower, but about fundamentally changing what and how we desire.